So I know that when you move to a new city, one of the biggest questions everybody always has is how much does it cost to live in that city? So today in this video, what I'm going to do is share with you what the cost of living is like in Tucson, Arizona. And we're going to get after it right now. Hello, my name is Paul Dunn. I'm a local realtor with eXp Realty right here in Tucson, Arizona. And what I have prepared for you today is a video about the cost of living right here in Tucson. I mean, we're going to be talking about housing. We're going to talk about utilities, transportation, you name it. Everything that you want to know about what it costs to live in the old Pueblo, we're going to talk about today. And now, if this is your first time on this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, click the little bell, and you'll be one of the first to be notified anytime we do a new video. And we do a new video once a week. And the videos that we do here are everything about Tucson, what it's like to live here, what it's like to play here, where do you want to buy a house, what are the best neighborhoods, everything, the pros and cons, you name it. And really, Darcy and I get calls every single day from people just like you who are thinking about moving to Tucson, Arizona, and they may have found us here on YouTube, they may have found us on Instagram, but we love talking to them. We'd love to talk to you. So if you're considering moving to Tucson, drop us a line, give us a call, send me a direct message, email, it doesn't really matter. Just get a hold of us and we'll be happy to help you out. So what you're looking at here is the cost of living index. And what Tucson comes in at is 91.6. Now, the average for the USA is obviously going to be 100. Arizona as a whole is 100.2. So Arizona and the rest of the USA in general is pretty much the same cost of living. However, when you get down to Tucson and we've got our 91.6, then we are a little bit cheaper than the rest of the country. So if you're coming from somewhere like the Midwest or something, then you're going to see a very, very similar cost of living here in Tucson. But if you're coming from one of the West Coast states or the East Coast, say New York or North Carolina, or maybe Seattle up in Washington, Oregon, or somewhere in California, the cost of living down here is going to be substantially less. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that's housing. Because whether you plan on buying when you move to Tucson or renting when you get here, it's going to be your biggest investment, your biggest monthly payment, right? And so let's start off looking at buying a home here in Tucson, and then a little bit later we'll look at the costs of renting as well. Now, if you look at the cost of living index that I showed you just a few moments ago, you'll notice that housing has Tucson at 80.4%. So that's 80.4% of the national average. So we're quite a bit cheaper than the rest of the country when it comes to housing. Now, if we look at Realtor.com, the average home price right now is $275,000, and that comes down to about a cost per square foot of about $173. Now let's head on up to the northwest part of town to an area called Marana. The average price in Marana is looking like it's about just over $326,000. Now let's head on east a little bit. We're still up in the northwest, but we're going to go just a little bit east to a little town called Oro Valley. Now the average home price in Oro Valley is coming in right at about $425,000. So you can see that as we move from Tucson up to the northwest and then east a little bit, home prices are starting to go up. Now let's go more to the kind of northeast part of town, a place called Catalina Foothills. The average home price right there is going at about $585,000 right now. So you can see that, as we just mentioned earlier, is moving from Tucson Central up to the northwest and then over east, that the prices tend to go up. Now, one of the things you're going to notice about Tucson when you get down here or start looking at properties on the customized search, or if you found us on our Instagram account at Sell Tucson, is that we have a crazy variety of properties. So if we're going downtown in the central area, you're gonna more than likely find some historic homes, some properties that are 100 plus years old. You're going to be able to find some barrio style homes, and those are really cool. And if you spread out just a little bit, you're going to open up even more historical type properties. We recently sold one that was actually part of the old Fort Lowell. And so that was a lot of fun. You're going to find new construction. And as you move further out of town, you're going to see a lot more new subdivisions. You'll find some older horse properties. I mean, there's just all sorts of cool stuff around here. And really all over Tucson, whether you're in the central area, the east side, the north, the northwest, you're still going to be able to find some mid-century modern. And what's really cool about the mid-century modern is it's just that classic look. And sometimes you'll find that they have some really funky architecture too. And of course, you've got that classic Arizona look, that Santa Fe style home. What about HOAs, you ask? So HOAs are all over the place, but yet there's a lot of properties that are not HOA properties. And so you can actually use our website and filter by non-HOA properties if that's what your preference is. Now, if you choose to have an HOA, you're gonna get a lot of amenities. And again, it's gonna really depend on the specific HOA and the subdivision that you're looking at. You might have a gate at the front, you might have swimming pools, you might have more than one swimming pool, you might have a few community pools, you may have a playground, you may have a couple playgrounds, you might have a community center, pickleball courts, basketball courts, maybe tennis courts. And then one thing that we're starting to see a lot of in some of these HOAs is actually a gym. So you won't need your gym membership at some of them. If you go without an HOA, you're gonna miss out on a lot of those amenities, but you have more freedom over what you can do with your property. They're not gonna tell you you can't put a queen palm in your front yard. They're not gonna tell you you can't park in the street. And so it's really going to depend a lot on what your personal preference is. Now, as far as the costs go, if you're talking about a single family residence, typically you're gonna find anything from $20 to $60 a month. Now, if you're talking about a townhome or a condominium, you're gonna find that those HOA fees are quite a bit more. In fact, they're gonna be about 100 to maybe 300 bucks a month. So let's say you're not quite ready to buy and you just wanna come down to Tucson, check it out and rent a place while you get to know the different parts of the area. And so that's a great option too, by the way. That's what we did when we first moved down to Tucson. Now, here are some current rates for apartments here in Tucson, and keep in mind that the more you vary or the more you move around, maybe the more that you get away from the center of town, the more these prices are going to vary. And also keep in mind that Tucson is building some incredibly high value rentals in downtown area that I know that those are going to be going for about $3,000 to $4,000 a month. They're not built yet, but they are on the way. Now, for the regular people who don't want to spend that kind of money on a downtown apartment, for a studio, you're going to be looking at about $580 right now. If we go to a one bedroom, it's going to be more in the neighborhood of about $683. If we add in another bedroom and look at a two bedroom apartment, you're looking at about $903 right now. Now, if we're going to a three bedroom, it's looking like about $1,306. And of course, the biggest apartment on our list today is the four bedroom apartment, which is popping in at $1,543. Now, keep in mind, like I mentioned just a moment ago, that as you move around Tucson, you're going to see variances in these prices. So let's talk about taxes. Now, in Arizona, you're going to see three kinds of taxes. You're going to find income tax. Yes, we have income tax. I'm sorry to admit it. We have sales tax, and then we have property tax. So those are the three types of taxes that you'll see here. So let's talk about the income taxes first. Now, if you compare us to other states out there, we're probably in the lower center part of the income tax bracket. So here are the brackets as of 2021 right now. So for a single filer, making up to $26,500, and for a family or a couple filing together making up to $53,000, you're looking at about a 2.59% income tax rate. Now let's jump up to the next tax bracket, and that would be a single filer making up to $53K or a couple making up to $106K. That tax bracket's going to move up to 3.34%. Now the next tax bracket, and there's four in total, would be for a single filer making up to $159 or for a couple making up to $318. Then you're looking at a tax rate of 4.17%, and everything above that is going to be a 4.5% tax bracket. So let's look at the next type of tax that we have, and that is the sales tax. Now, as a general rule, the county and the state have a 6.1 total percent sales tax. Now, every city in Tucson has a little bit different city tax that they add on to that. In Tucson, it's 2.6%. If you go out to Marana and Oro Valley, you're going to find that those numbers are a little bit lower. But in Tucson general, you're going to add that 2.6% to the 6.1%, and that's going to give you an 8.7% total sales tax. That's why a lot of times if somebody is going in the market to buy a brand new car, instead of buying it down at one of the Tucson dealerships, they'll go up to Oracle, where they don't have any city sales tax. Now, the final tax that we're going to talk about is the property tax. Now, property taxes are assessed not based off of the sales price, but they're based off of how the assessor comes up with a market value for the property. And believe me, they're two wildly different numbers. Your market value is going to be substantially less than what you're going to actually pay for a home. But as a general rule, property taxes are right around a 1% of the property value. So if you're looking at a $300,000 home, it's a good bet that those property taxes are going to be right around $3,000 a year. So before we jump completely out of the whole tax discussion, I just want to share with you that there are two possible tax breaks that I am aware of. Number one is for senior citizens over the age of 65 with a fixed income. Now, the other tax break is for historical properties, and there are specific guidelines for those. So if you are looking at buying a historical property, be sure and give me I don't want to break. Give me a call or give me a text, and I'll send you the information on that as well. Okay, so let's pretend that you found the perfect house. It costs $300,000 and you want to know, hey, Paul, what is my monthly mortgage payment going to be? So let's go ahead and take a look at that right now. So today is mid-May of 2021, and the interest rates right now are about 3.125% for a conventional loan. Now, by the time you watch this video, or by the time that you actually decide to move it down here and buy a property, the rates could be wildly different. So if you're interested, just put in the comments below and ask me, hey, Paul, what are the rates that your mortgage guys are telling you? And I'll be sure and share that with you. But back to the mortgage payment. If you do a $300,000 house and you're putting 10% down, that's $30,000. That's going to leave you with a $270,000 mortgage, okay? So the mortgage payment part of that is called principal and interest, and in that you're paying part of your payment towards the principal of the loan, and the other towards the interest on the loan. And that's going to be roughly $1,156. Now, on top of that, you'll have to add property taxes to your payment as well. And if you remember right, the property taxes generally tend to be about 1% of the sales price. So in our case, that would be $3,000. Divide 3,000 by 12 and you get $250 a month. So on top of that, you're going to need to have hazard insurance in case the home burns down. Generally, you're gonna have to shop that, but generally you're gonna see that's about $97, $98 a month. And then private mortgage insurance as well, and that's gonna be about $101. So grand total, you add all those things up, you're coming in at just over $1,600 for your monthly payment. And again, once you find a real property that you're looking at, let us know. We'll put you in contact with a couple different mortgage lenders, and you can talk to them directly and get a really accurate quote on what you're looking at. So let's talk about healthcare real quick. If you go back to that original chart, the cost of living index, you'll see that Tucson comes in at 81.5, which means that we're quite a bit less as far as cost for healthcare goes than the rest of the US. And I think part of the reason is, and again, I'm just guessing here, I think part of the reason is that we have a very large senior population, and we have the medical facilities that tend to work with that type of a clientele. And so that is probably one reason why we do have a lower cost of living as far as healthcare goes. So let's dig into some utilities. We're talking electricity, water, and the interwebs. So for electricity, you're generally going to be paying between $100 to maybe $130 a month, but that's going to vary a lot depending on the time of year, as well as depending on if you have a one-story home or a two-story home. The two-story homes are obviously they use more electricity because you have typically more than one air conditioner, right? Now, during the summer months, your electricity bill is going to be a lot more than it is during the winter months. And as an average for the year, you're going to probably see it settle about maybe $170 to $180 per month. Okay, so that's just an average. So for us personally, our lowest electricity bill is around December, and it's going to be between $20 and $50. But when we get into the summer months of July and August, we're going to be maybe $300, $315 for our home. So just keep that in mind, that you're going to see quite a variance as the year goes along. As far as water goes, you're typically going to see that it's going to be about $30 to $50 a month. So it's probably right in line with the rest of the country. And the interwebs is going to be just like it is almost everywhere else, depending on what kind of high speed you want, whether it's going to be maybe $50 to $60 a month. But as a general rule, with all the utilities grouped together, you're going to come in somewhere between maybe $250 to maybe $300, just over $300 a month. So let's talk about one of my favorite things here, and that's the food scene. I just love the food we have in Tucson. I mean, we've got a great variety. And so I actually happen to live up in the northwest part of Tucson, and we've got some really cool food up this way. We've got a lot of good barbecue, and actually there's some of the cattle farms out here have some great restaurants as well. Now, as you go into Tucson, you're gonna find a lot more variety. You're gonna have some really great steakhouses. But from a general run-of-the-mill, let's just talk about an average type meal going out to dinner. If it's you and a spouse, or you and a partner, or you and a friend, you're gonna end up spending between 13 and 15 bucks per plate as a general rule. I mean, you can spend a lot more if you're gonna go out to the steakhouse or something. If you decide that, well, I don't want just the meal, I want to try out one of these tasty local beers, that beer is going to set you back 5 to 7 bucks depending on where you go. Or if you hit happy hour too. And then if you add maybe a glass of wine, that's going to come in maybe 7 to 10 bucks. So you can see that really quickly, that meal can add up to be about 70 bucks for a couple, okay? Now you throw in a couple kids in the mix and you're not if they're eating off the kids' meal, you might get out of there for between 80 and 100 bucks. But if you're like me and your kids are old enough to have a beer at dinner, it's gonna be over 100 bucks, right? So that's just a general rule of the cost of going out to dinners here in Tucson. So let's say you don't want to go out to dinner. You want to save that 60, 70, 80, 100 bucks and keep it in your bank account, and you're going to cook your own dinner. So let's talk about groceries here in Tucson. Now, the grocery index has us at 95.5, which means that we're a little bit cheaper than the rest of the country on average, but not a whole lot. So regardless of where you're coming from, you're probably going to see that groceries are maybe a little bit less. If you're coming from California, obviously our groceries are going to seem pretty darn cheap. But if you're coming from maybe the Midwest or the Southwest, you're going to see that our groceries are fairly similar to what your grocery prices are. So let's talk about transportation. So let's start with riding a bike. Let's say that you get down here to Tucson, the weather's gorgeous, and you want to bike to work. Well, you're in luck because Tucson has over 1,000 miles of bicycle lanes. So a lot of people actually do bike to work down here. Now, having said that, it's awfully darn hot in July and August, so maybe that's not the optimal time to be biking to work. And if you do bike, make sure you bring some water with you. Now let's say that you don't want to ride your bike to work, but you still want to use public transportation. Well, you're in luck. We have SunTran, and SunTran is our bus system that will get you around from different parts of town, whether you want to go down south or up north to Oro Valley or Marana. There is a SunTran bus schedule for you. Now, a 30-day pass on the SunTran bus system is going to run you about 48 bucks right now. They do offer discounts for disabilities, for senior citizens and such. You can go to their website to see that information. And they also offer packages for college students as well. So the third type of transportation, actually there's 4 types as I think about it. The third type of transportation is going to be the Sunlink trolley service. It's an electric trolley car that runs downtown. It starts up at the University District. It goes down to the 4th Avenue area, which is where a lot of the bars are and a lot of the really old, cool downtown artsy stores. It's a really cool place to go see. And then it goes through that 4th Ave over to the Mercado District on the west side. And the Mercado District is really our artsy kind of area. And so again, it goes from the University of Arizona down 4th Street, so you can get all that action, and over to Mercado. And those prices run right along the same as the Sunlink prices. And let's say that you don't want to do that, or you want to ride it for one day. I believe a one-day pass is like 4.5 bucks. But anyway, let's say that you want to take that 4th mode of transportation and drive yourself, ride your motorcycle, whatever. There is ample parking downtown in parking garages and other parking spaces as well, so that you're going to be able to commute that way. So that was a real brief overview of the cost of living down here in Tucson, Arizona. And generally, if you remember back to the cost of living index, we come in at a whopping 91.6% of the national average, which for me is really cool because our cost of living is a little bit less than it is in the rest of the country. And I just love that. And it's especially cheaper than our neighbors up to the north, Phoenix that is. And I love that as well. Plus, it's just a prettier place. You got to face that too. So anyway, if I missed anything, just drop a question down in the comment box below and I'll try to give you an answer on what that would be. Oh, and by the way, mid-May, gas just hit $3 a gallon here in Tucson. So we'll see where it is a year from now. If you're watching this a year from now, just drop a question down there and ask me what's the cost of gas right now, and I'll tell you that as well. And Darcy and I get calls every single day from people who are looking for more information on Tucson or thinking about moving here to Tucson from all over the country, and actually even Canada, to tell you the truth. And we would love to be able to be your resource, your boots on the ground down here. So if there's something that I missed in the video, a part of town that you want to see, a pro, a con, anything, just let me know. Reach out to us, call, text, email, doesn't matter. We got your back if you're thinking about Tucson, Arizona, and we'll love to help you out. And by the way, if you need to get rid of a property or sell a property where you're moving from, we can have a referral for you there as well.